Am I the jerk for refusing to go to the same college as my stepsister? Alright, so here's my situation. I'm a 17-year-old high school senior, and it's about time for me to decide where I'm going to college. I've been lucky enough to get accepted into some awesome universities that are perfect for what I want to study, and I'm super excited about starting this next chapter. A bit of background for you. My parents split up when I was 7, and I lived with my mom until she passed away when I was 14. I've been living with my dad and his new wife Lisa for the last 3 years. My dad remarried Lisa when I was 9, and she has a daughter, Jan, who's the same age as me. On my mom's side of the family, there's been a college fund set up for me since I was a baby. My grandparents and my mom have been adding to a $529 plan, and it's got around $110,000 in it now. Jan has struggled a lot with social anxiety, and it seemed to get a bit better when I moved in with my dad. Maybe because Jan didn't have a lot of showed up. Lisa, my stepmom, has been pretty insistent on me spending a ton of time with Jan, and this has only gotten more intense since the pandemic started. To be honest, I don't really view Jan as a sister or even a friend. She's more like someone I live with. We didn't really hang out much before I moved in because my dad would always take me out to do stuff when I visited him. Now, when it comes to college, I've been accepted into my top choice school, and with the financial aid package they offered plus my family's support, I can graduate without any debt. I'm absolutely in love with the school and really feel a connection to its culture and vibe. So, during one of my visits, the whole college topic came up. Jan has her heart set on going to a state school that's a good fit for her major, which is cool. And it turns out, I got accepted into that state school too. But since Jan found out I was also accepted there, she and Lisa, my stepmom, started making plans as if it's a done deal that we'll be heading to college together and even rooming together. But here's the thing. I also got accepted into my top choice university, which I absolutely love. When I shared my plans to go there instead, both Lisa and Jan freaked out. Lisa accused me of ditching Jan, and Jan got really upset, saying she'd be all alone at college without knowing anyone. Then, Lisa dropped this bomb on me. If I don't go to the state school with Jan, she and my dad won't help me financially for college. That's when I reminded her that my grandparents have been saving for my college, not them. I got pretty mad and told her that if they cut me off, it wouldn't change a thing, because I have my grandparents' support, and I could even look into more scholarships if needed. Last weekend, I made a trip to my grandparents' place to share some big news. I got accepted into my dream college and decided to accept the offer. We celebrated with ice cream and good vibes all around. Later, when I got back home, I broke the news to my dad's side of the family during dinner. Since then, Lisa has been giving me the cold shoulder, being super passive-aggressive because she thinks I'm not being supportive of the family. Jan, on the other hand, keeps crying and begging me to reconsider my decision. My dad's even suggesting that I should just give up on my dream school, lose the $750 deposit, and go to the state school with Jan, just to avoid any drama at home. I get that Jan might struggle to adapt to college life without someone familiar by her side, and that someone is me. Being there could make things easier for her, but I didn't even consider changing my plans or discussing it further with them. Besides, the idea of sticking close to Jan indefinitely doesn't sit well with me at all. Edit. Wow. I totally didn't see this getting so much attention. My bad for not getting back to a bunch of you, but just so you know, I'm definitely scrolling through all your comments. Massive thanks for all the love and advice you guys have thrown my way. I've been chatting with my school and my grandparents about what's going on, and I'm hoping we'll come up with a plan soon. I've managed to keep a low profile around my dad, Lisa, and Jan by mostly hanging out in my room. I'm planning to have a real sit-down with them this weekend, once I've got my thoughts in order and know exactly what I want to say. Now for the next story. My brother-in-law is the reason why my husband left me. I don't know what to do now. I'm 38 years old, and I first crossed paths with my brother-in-law when we were both at university. He hit on me during our first year, and when I turned him down, he lashed out with some pretty harsh words, calling me the C word and accusing me of being shallow. My best friend tried to brush it off, saying he was just a drunk guy dealing with rejection, but his attitude and awkwardness really put me off. Despite his initial outburst, he left me alone for the rest of our uni days, never even giving me another glance. Fast forward about 9 or 10 years, and I'm reintroduced to him by my younger sister, who excitedly tells me he's her best friend. I honestly didn't even recognize him at first. When he realized I didn't remember him, he got really annoyed and accused me of lying. Although my family was initially wary of him, he seemed to treat my sister well, making her happy and whisking her away on trips around the world. He also appeared to be quite wealthy and kind. After being together for a year, my sister and her now hubby decided to make it official and got hitched. They've since built a pretty sweet life together, complete with 3 kiddos running around. Fast forward a bit, and I meet the man of my dreams about 45 years back. Everything's peachy until one day, out of the blue, my brother-in-law throws this comment my way, saying I'm just as shallow and stuck up as I was back in our uni days. At the time, I brushed it off, chuckling, thinking he's just messing with me. But man, if I had known then what I know now, I would have seen that comment as the red flag it clearly was. My brother-in-law, well, he's never been one for big social gatherings or chummy get-togethers, so the fact that he didn't buddy up with my husband and me didn't seem all that strange. He's always been more of the keep-to-himself type. Then, about a year ago, my world got turned upside down. My husband comes storming and accusing me of stepping out on him, claiming he's got all the evidence he needs. Some dude had reached out to him, showing him nudes and whatnot, claiming he had no idea I was married until later on, and then he felt super bad and decided to spill the beans to my now soon-to-be ex-husband. I was floored. I mean, I've never seen this guy in my life, let alone send him anything remotely close to nudes. But no matter what I said, my husband wouldn't hear it. He made up his mind right then and there, packed his bags, and that was that. Our divorce papers are just waiting for a signature now. And just when I thought things couldn't get weirder, yesterday, out of nowhere, that same dude who supposedly had all this evidence decides to hit me up. So this guy who messaged me started off by saying sorry for everything that went down. Turns out, he's buddies with my brother-in-law. Then, he sends me all these screenshots of chats about me that my brother-in-law has been having for years. It's like he's been holding a grudge because I, according to him, didn't give him a shot back in the day and just judged him on his looks. He even used some pretty harsh words to describe me in those messages, not just in private chats with this guy, but also in group chats with their friends. They actually planned the whole thing together, and somehow my brother-in-law got his hands on some of my photos. The reason this guy is reaching out to me now is that he's feeling guilty. Even though my marriage has fallen apart, my brother-in-law is still filled with anger and hate, especially when he found out I went on a date recently. This friend realized that instead of helping, he's just ended up messing up lives that had nothing to do with their vendetta. I'm not really sure how to handle all this. Ever since my divorce, my brother-in-law has been acting all happy and social, and now I get why. At first, I thought he was just trying to be there for me, but all his jokes about me ending up alone with a bunch of cats don't seem so much like jokes now. He actually meant them. The last thing I want to do is cause any trouble for my sister, but this is just too much. So, this guy reached out to me, saying sorry for the mess he caused, and dropped a bombshell that he's actually buddies with my brother-in-law. Then, he sends over tons of messages where my brother-in-law has been obsessing over me for ages. He still hung up on how I supposedly didn't give him a shot back in the day and only judged him based on his looks. In those chats, he even used that mean C-word to describe me, both in group chats with his pals and in conversations with this one guy. Turns out, they cooked up this whole scheme to mess with me, and my brother-in-law somehow got his hands on my personal photos. The reason this guy decided to come clean to me now is because he started feeling guilty. Even after my marriage hit the rocks, my brother-in-law was still full of anger and hate, getting even worse when he found out I went on a date recently. This made the guy realize that instead of helping his friend, he ended up messing up the lives of people who did nothing wrong. I'm at a loss here. Ever since my divorce, my brother-in-law's been unusually chipper, and now I get why. I used to think maybe he was just trying to be there for me, but his jokes about me ending up alone with a bunch of cats? Yeah, not feeling like jokes now, he actually meant them. And I'm stuck because I don't want to mess up my sister's happiness with her husband. As for my ex, my heart's just shattered. He was everything to me, and it hurts like crazy that he didn't trust me. He's been my world, but I'm torn over whether I can ever get past him not having my back. But then, he's been played too, right? So maybe he deserves to know the whole story, if only to find some peace of his own. I'm just drowning in sadness and hurt over all of this. Sorry for turning this into such a long rant. Update. After finding out about my brother-in-law's deep-seated grudge against me and his elaborate scheme to destroy my marriage, I've been tossed into a whirlwind of feelings and tough choices. Discovering that someone I thought of as family could despise me so much and go to such lengths to harm me has shaken me to my core. The proof handed over by his once partner in crime, who's now come forward with a guilty conscience, feels like both a curse and a chance to set things straight for everyone caught in this mess. The thought of telling my sister Tate about the dark secrets her husband's been keeping is tearing me apart. She's living in blissful ignorance of the storm brewing in her marriage, and the idea of ruining her happiness is just too much. But then again, staying silent about my brother-in-law's malicious deeds doesn't sit right with me either. It feels like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, with every option leading to more pain. Then there's the situation with my ex-husband Zim. The betrayal we've both experienced from someone we trusted has weirdly brought us closer, even as we're finalizing our divorce. I keep thinking about telling him everything, about maybe healing together, but I'm scared. Scared he'll push me away, scared of opening up old wounds. Is there a chance for forgiveness after everything? Or is this newfound connection just a shared trauma that'll fade away? Amid all this chaos, the person who played a role in my nightmare has surprisingly become a source of support. The guy who came clean has shown real remorse, offering not just apologies, but solid evidence that might help me clear my name and bring my brother-in-law's scheme to light. It's a small silver lining in a very dark cloud. My brother-in-law's behavior has changed a bit since his secret came out. His once cheerful facade now seems like a mask hiding his true feelings, those bitter and angry motives behind his actions. His mean jokes about my future don't just make me uncomfortably chuckle anymore, they're a stark reminder of his true feelings towards me. Looking forward, I'm faced with some really hard decisions. Telling my sister the truth, considering getting back together with Zim, and figuring out how to rebuild my life after this betrayal are daunting tasks. But there's this tiny hope that maybe, just maybe, honesty and truth will eventually lead to some form of justice and healing for all of us involved. As I try to find my way through this tangled mess of relationships, emotions, and choices, I know the journey to healing and understanding will be long and full of hurdles. But I'm ready to face it, armed with the truth and a fragile hope that, in the end, love and honesty will triumph over lies and revenge. Now for the next story. So, am I being unreasonable for telling my dad that his mistake isn't something I need to sort out? I'm 20 years old and live a couple of hours away from my dad. My parents split up when I was 9, and by the time my dad got remarried when I was 14, I was mainly living with my mom. My younger brother, who's 16, and my sister, who's 17, also spent most of their time at Mom's place. Unfortunately, our mom passed away a year and a half ago, and since then, my siblings have been living with our dad, his new wife, and her young kids, who are between 7 and 11 years old. I can't say I've gotten super close to my step-siblings. When I visit my dad, I'm polite and treat them okay, but it's just not the same as with my brother and sister. It's natural for me to make more of an effort with my own siblings. We usually hang out once or twice a month, doing stuff like watching movies, shopping, or just chilling together. They've even come over to my apartment a few times. But here's the kicker. My dad kind of put me on the spot by mentioning, in front of his stepkids, that they could sleep over at my place next month. After my dad mentioned in front of his wife and her kids that my siblings had stayed over at my place, it caused a bit of drama. My siblings told me that the younger stepkids felt left out and wanted to know why they couldn't come too. Plus, his wife was really upset, not only because my dad mentioned it in front of her kids, but she was also in the dark about the sleepovers happening at all. Now, my dad's catching heat because I'm not putting in the same effort with all the kids. He's asking me to smooth things over by inviting all the kids over this time and to keep that same level of effort up in the future. I straight up told him that's not my mess to clean up. I said I'd continue being nice and somewhat inclusive when I see them, but I've got a closer bond with my siblings. That's just how it is. I don't have the same connection with the stepkids since I've never lived with them or had that sibling vibe. My dad didn't take that well. He argued that I should be trying to fix his blunder and that it would make everyone happier if I included them all. My sister was quick to point out that it wouldn't actually make them happier. My siblings kind of appreciate the break from the younger kids, especially after being stuck together so much during the lockdown. He tried to guilt-trip me, saying helping family is what's important. So, am I being unreasonable here? Next story. Am I the jerk for not wanting to give up our baby moon location for my sister? So, my wife is expecting and we're about a month away from welcoming our baby. We've both been swamped at work and haven't managed to take any time off until now. I finally snagged 4 days off next week for us to escape to our cozy beach house. We've been really looking forward to this trip, dreaming about some quiet time together before our little guy arrives. The beach house is near this quaint town with a cool day spa and some fun spots to explore. So, we're pretty pumped about the getaway. But here's where things get tricky. My sister just got hitched to her beau. They opted for a simple ceremony, kind of a courthouse deal, but done online. Now they're itching to have their honeymoon, and guess what? They've set their sights on our beach house for the exact time we planned our baby moon because her husband has a work trip right after and won't be back until mid-May. I tried to compromise, suggesting they could use the beach house but would need to clear out by Thursday because that's when we plan to arrive. The snag is their work schedules. Apparently, next weekend is the only slot they have open. So, I had no choice but to say no to her request because we're all set on using the beach house for the entire 4 days. I've already taken these days off work and it's not like I can just change my plans at the last minute. They're really keen on squeezing in their honeymoon before her husband's work trip, but now she's upset with us. She thinks we're being unreasonable because technically we could plan our getaway for some other time. And yeah, she has a point. But with work being so hectic, the only break I've managed to get is this one, aside from a couple of days off. It looks like the next chance we'll have for a vacation might not be until after our baby arrives. We were really hoping to spend some quality time together, just the two of us, before our lives change with our son's birth. But now, my sister is really angry with us for not letting them use the beach house for their honeymoon before her husband has to go. So, does that make us the bad guys here? Now for the last story. Am I the jerk for visiting my aunts against my mother's orders as it upsets my stepsister? So, here's the deal. I'm a 16-year-old girl trying to make sense of my family situation, which is kind of complicated. Let me break it down for you. About 5 years back, my parents split up. My dad moved on pretty quickly, remarried within a year, and now I have this adorable 1-year-old half-sister from his side. Then, there's my mom's side of the family. She got remarried just before the whole COVID situation blew up. With that marriage, I ended up with a stepsister named Jazz, who's 11. Jazz lost her mom when she was just 8. I've managed to find my footing with my dad's new family, but things have been rough with my mom's new husband and Jazz. The main issue with Jazz is that she tends to cause drama and I just can't handle it. It's like walking on eggshells around her because anything I say could be twisted into some elaborate story and the next thing you know, she's crying up a storm. She's super sensitive and over time, I figured the best strategy is to just steer clear of her as much as possible. My mom keeps telling me to be patient and understanding with Jazz, considering her past and the fact that she's still adjusting to being part of our blended family. So, trying to keep my cool has been super tough, especially when Jazz wrecks my stuff, is mean to both me and my mom, and then her dad just checks out, acting like he's invisible whenever she throws a fit. The good news is, while all this drama unfolds at my mom's place, I've got my aunt who lives close by. I love hanging out with her. She sometimes takes me out shopping, treats me to cool stuff from the past, and is just an awesome person to be around. She's got a lot on her plate these days, but still makes time for me. She even gave me a spare key to her place so I can chill there even when she's not around. But here's where things get sticky. My mom and my aunt had a big blow-up last week, and now my mom's laid down the law, saying I can't go see my aunt anymore. Why? Because it apparently makes Jazz upset. She went crying to her dad, saying it's not fair that I have an aunt who spoils me, while she feels like she's got no one. My mom actually asked my aunt to start buying gifts for Jazz too, but my aunt wasn't having it, and that's what kicked off their fight. After that, my mom told me I'm not allowed to visit my aunt, but I've been sneaking over to my aunt's place anyway, even after my mom told me to cut it out. So my mom got super mad at me, calling me a selfish brat for not thinking about my stepsister, while Jazz just sat there smirking. I couldn't hold back, and I told her straight up, with Jazz overhearing, that I only have one sister, and that's my little sister from my dad's side. I made it clear I couldn't care less about what Jazz thinks, and that I'm going to keep visiting my aunt no matter what. What's she gonna do? Lock me up? Is that even allowed? Take my phone away? Nope, that's from my dad. Kick me out? I'd like to see that. So here I am, chilling at my aunt's place again, and my mom's blowing up my phone about how Jazz is throwing a fit. My aunt's cool with me staying, but she thinks I should eventually patch things up with them, saying it's not good to keep things this way long term. She even let me see her phone, and I saw texts from my mom and my other aunt, the youngest one, blaming her for my actions. I feel bad for my aunt getting dragged into this mess, but I don't feel sorry one bit for Jazz. So, does my standing my ground make me the bad guy here? Edit. My aunt, who's actually my mom's younger sister, lives by herself, and I often crash at her place whenever things get too heated with Jazz, or if there's a clash with my mom and stepdad because of Jazz's antics. We've never really talked about me moving in with her permanently, but she's given me a set of spare keys and told me I'm welcome anytime. Right now, Jazz is seeing a counselor or therapist, whatever you want to call it. I can't really tell if it's making a difference because she seems the same to me. I'd actually prefer to live with my dad, but he's staying with my stepmom's parents at the moment, taking care of one of them who's unwell. I don't want to add to their burden. So, for the time being, staying near my mom means I at least have the option to hang out at my aunt's place.